All right, continuing along with the program, welcome back here to the 2010 High School Football Wrap-Up Show. As you see, joined by a couple of our broadcasters that have watched a ton of high school football this year. Cory Lopez and Marty Cesario join me here in the studio. Well, we just saw highlights from that Mullen and Regis game, and guys, let's start with Class 5A. And let me just throw out this question. I'll let you both kind of respond to it, but where does this 2010 Mullen football team rank when you talk about all-time great teams in the state of Colorado? Marty, we'll go with you. Is it in the top 5, or is it far and away the best team ever to suit up in the state of Colorado, at least in recent memory?
I'm not a guy who's going to commit to, all-time greatest. I mean, certainly when you run across the span of a whole century, I mean, that's kind of a stretch, right?
So you're on the fence?
I'm on the fence, except for I will go and up it to top 3. I mean, without a doubt, especially what's so impressive is, each year we're watching these Mullen programs come into life here, as we've done CET for, almost a decade here, and each year they get better, and this team in 2010, I mean, certainly they're the best. I say a key element there was, Siler Miles is the best quarterback Dave Logan has ever had, without a doubt. I mean, you just see what he brings to the table, across the board. A guy can throw, a guy can run, and of course with, Adonis in his 4th year, I mean, that guy's just a powerful running back that we're going to watch on Saturdays. The guys up front, and you wondered, hey, that D-line that was so amazing last year, what are they going to do? Well, the LBs were just as powerful a unit, talking about the guys like, Healy and Day and Willingham. Just an amazing job, I think.
I think it's about longevity. I think that places them up there. You win 3 in a row, that's pretty special. We go back to the 30s when Fort Collins won 3 in a row. We go back to the mid-90s when Cherry Creek won 3 in a row, and those were some pretty special teams too. There's only 3 teams in Class 5A or 6A or the old 4A before the 1970 mid-70s when they changed it over to a 5 classification deal where somebody's won 3 in a row, and I think that says a lot because it is cyclical in high school sports, but you reloaded as opposed to rebuilt, and Dave Logan's done that very well here.
Yeah, certainly there's a lot of folks out there that have covered more high school football than I ever have, and I think of Neil Devlin. I grew up in the state. I've always followed high school football. I've been covering it as a radio or a TV broadcaster now for nearly 14 years. I just can't remember a team being as dominant as what we saw at the Mullen Mustangs. And you think back, maybe one of those Cherry Creek teams in the mid-90s, maybe you talked about that 2002 Columbine team led by Tanner Rogers, who was the best quarterback to come through in Andy Lowry's system. Maybe those teams were comparable. But what I saw on Saturday, and certainly saw the entire year, but what I saw on Saturday and the way they dismantled, guys, a good Regis team. That's a 13-0 football team. They just completely dismantled them. Regis was not even in the same stratosphere with the team they faced that Saturday, and it was Mullen. But no hard feelings to Regis because there wasn't a single team of the state that was in the same stratosphere this year.
Yeah, I think you lump Regis in with everybody else, the previous 13 squads that Mullen faced in 2010. Yeah. I'm with you. I got my jaw dropped. I mean, I barked since, I said that 2008 game that we did with Arvada West when I saw, the light bulb turned on for me about Regis and the brotherhood that they were putting together, and then the way they were so physical and powerful. And all of a sudden, all this year they go undefeated, just smacking people around with guys like O'Dwyer and Heath and that. And, what Mullen did, they just put them down, didn't they?
Yeah, first time since '83 in Class 5A, the big boys, that undefeated teams faced off, and it was a mismatch. And, we tried to, throughout the day on Saturday, to talk about Regis and go, what a great team they are. It's just the wrong year.
That could be a football team that wins it in other years, but not this year, not even close, and there were no teams close. Congratulations to Coach Logan. And I also want to say congratulations, obviously, to Mark Nolan. I didn't call him Mike this time. Mark Nolan. And how about those Regis students and that Regis crowd? That was the best crowd that Chassa has ever had at a championship Saturday. It was because of Regis and their fan support. They were absolutely outstanding. All right, let's move on, guys, and let's talk about the 4A game and Valor Christian coming in, having won the 3A state championship the year before. They went 14-0 and knocked off Steamboat Springs in that championship game. They knocked off Austin Hinder. Come back to Class 4A here this year. They opened up 1-3, but boy, did they finish strong. Marty, They went 10-0 against 4A competition this year. Their 3 losses were all against 5A teams, and they dismantled every 4A team they faced.
Yeah, and for casual fans who saw that 1-3 record, through week 4, and we had 2 of those games where they lost to Pomona, the previous year's state runner-up, and that Grandview game that was early on, and something we always wanted to qualify with is they had a mess of skills players that were sitting in the nurse's office, with injuries. But still, even with those losses, I know, what I saw with the eye test there was that, hey, I'm watching along the line of scrimmage. They got some big boys up front. It reminds me like perhaps one of those squads we were just talking about, the Mullen Mustangs. You start up front, you get big, you get fast, you move laterally with the linebackers, and they had that, and look what happened. I mean, they just polished off every 4A squad they met, including, the state runners-up in Wheat Ridge. Quite a fine showing for those big boys up front.
Yeah, and Cory, I think we all knew Valor was going to be someone that you had to reckon with in the playoffs, but what they did to Pine Creek down in Colorado Springs, and then the game we had on CET, the way they just dominated up front on both sides of the ball, a good Broomfield football team. That is when I said, I know Wheat Ridge is good. I just don't know if they can handle Valor Christian.
Yeah, it was game planning. I mean, Brett Wieselmeyer and his coaches figured out. I mean, it was stop go bell, of course, for Broomfield in that semifinal game. We saw it here on CET, and they're fast. I mean, speed kills, and that's what happened because going in against Wheat Ridge, they knew they needed to stop number 7, and that was Nick Cosello, and that's what they did. First play from scrimmage, he got crushed by Javon Johnson, and I saw it from the end zone down on the sidelines, and I'm telling you, the place went nuts for Valor. I mean, it was huge, and that's the message they wanted to send. We're going to be here all day. We're going to chase you down. We're going to pursue, and that's the way their defense works. So we talked to the times that we had Valor on the post-game show, we talked a lot of defense with them because we didn't want it to be overshadowed because their offense is impressive. You got a freshman who's going to be fun to watch Christian McCaffrey run for the next 3 years for them. You've got Brock Berglund, who is fantastic, but the defense really set the tone, and then the offense could go and have fun.
Yeah. Guys, a couple minutes left here before we have to say goodbye to the football season altogether, but some of the thoughts, and Marty, we'll start with you, that maybe stick in your mind as you recall the games that we did here this season.
Well, I think, one, I like the performance of the Denver East Angels this year with what they had gone through. Hopefully their coaching staff has found who they need to be under. So, congratulations to the Angels for that. Certainly watching Chaparral rebound after all the things they dealt with the Loudenbeck situation, so good for them as they, carried on through. Grandview, who we saw in week 0 with the win over Valor Christian. Nice job, Coach Schultz, getting into the quarterfinals. And then how about Rangeview? We did that game together. Yep. I mean, what an amazing season for guys like Tidwell and Awani and Matthews, and then of course Coach Gonzalez getting all the way to the quarterfinals out of the EMAC.
Yeah, Awani named one of the top football players in the state, and you can see why. I know they played in the EMAC. Nice representation. It's a weaker conference for them. I don't think that helped them, but they did make a nice run through the playoffs too. I mean, they really shut down some of the critics who were kind of us saying, you're in a weaker conference. They really stepped up. On the 4A side of things, my apologies to Longmont. Of course they were going to be there. And when I blogged about it going into the 16 teams, I didn't put Longmont in there as a team that could go and win because I didn't think that they could beat Monarch. But, those two teams have faced off so many times. Longmont was going to be there toward the end. I'm a little surprised after they beat Monarch that they didn't roll all the way to the finals. I mean, it's just that type of club that Coach Johnson kind of has there, and that's been pretty impressive to watch.
All right, well, no rest for the weary as we get right into basketball season. Hey, guys, excellent job as always, and we'll continue on into hoops, and we'll finish up that year at the Coors Event Center. Great work.